Welcome to another sorry, another episode of Redesigning Your Relationships podcast. I'm your host, Giovanna Burgess White. We're live too.
Oh my God. And I am the partner in crime. And let's just say this. Gio and I love what we do. We love coming here every week. People ask us if we're scripted. We're not. But we do bring what we feel like are very important topics to share. We obviously have a really good time, but let's just be real. We're real people. Sometimes things happen behind the scenes. Sometimes we just think things we talk about, but that is the joy and the excitement that we bring to our listeners. Because if you're listening, you probably already know that about us. We love life, but we take what we talk about very seriously. So we do welcome you. We're excited to be here, and what a joy life is. And actually, listen, you don't know this, but I was really thinking about this topic because we've been doing this series. It is 6 parts. We're doing it on boundaries. The first one was the boundary with yourself. The second one, boundary with your business. And this one today is going to be the boundary with your kids. And before you do our introduction, I'm just going to say I did my own personal notes because I think this is a topic that is extremely important to people because obviously everyone has kids. And I feel like, especially when your children are younger, it's super hard to know how to do the boundaries, why, how, all the things. So go ahead and do all of our wonderful introductions before we dive in.
Yeah, so if this is the first time you're watching us live, thank you for watching us. We are live every single Wednesday. We talk about all topics in relationships, and we have a new episode that drops every Friday anywhere that you listen to podcasts. So if you want to listen or if you want to watch, you have both of those options. We also have great tools and resources on our website. So you can go to YG Collaborations. We have blogs. We have links to everything that you would need. And then if you ever just feel like you want to talk to us, we have a link that you can book a complimentary virtual call. And we can just talk about any relationship in your life. And so we're just excited about this mini series. Yvette and I have been talking about boundaries. Like I feel like the last, honestly, 6 months with our clients in all areas in their life. And if you didn't go back to, if you're just watching part 3, go back to 1 and 2. It doesn't matter which way you listen to them or watch them, but it's important because you have to start with the boundaries with yourself before you can really have clarity around your relationships and boundaries in other areas in your life. And yeah, children have been coming up a lot. We've not only talked about it with our clients, but in our group coaching sessions. And just like Yvette said earlier, the earlier you can start to establish those, the easier it is going to be as your children grow up to understand what boundaries really are. So let's just talk a little bit about that and what it looks like for your children. And for those of you guys who don't know, I have 2 teens. I have a 13-year-old and a 16-year-old. Yvette has 4 adults between 21 and 28. So we're just kind of going to give you some of our personal I guess tips and tricks, but really it's really going to help you with just setting boundaries. It doesn't matter how old your children are. So
Yeah. And I think what I love about what we're going to share too is this comes from experience. It comes from the do's and the don'ts. It also comes from what we've learned, what we, I think just a wide range. It's not like we're sitting there going, oh, this is how we perfectly parented. No, not even close. But I feel like just the idea of boundaries, because let's just begin at the top. The top is what you said in the beginning. No matter what boundary you're trying to establish in your life, the boundary starts with you. So you've got to self-assess and say to yourself, where am I right now in my parenting? Where am I right now as myself? And start with you, because those boundaries are first and foremost most important. What are you feeling as a parent? Why are you wanting to have these boundaries? What's going on in your home that you're now being affected, that you see your children being affected? It's like total chaos in a jungle gym? Or is it just moments of time where you go, hey, I just wish this was better, and I don't feel like they're really respecting my personal boundaries? But I really do believe, just like everything we teach, it begins with you, the parent. You've got to understand yourself. You've got to understand what you're really wanting, because if you, just like we talked about our relationship at work or whatever, if you don't even know what your boundaries are, how in the world are you going to articulate them to the people around you? So I just wanted to say that again. That seems like an obvious, but then I think that there are 3 things that we need to take in consideration with especially with kids, when developing boundaries in general, we need to think about their personal growth, because a boundary is for you, yes, obviously, but the boundary is also for them, and it's to help them establish their own personal growth. The other thing is, most boundaries that we want to put up for a parent is usually because there's a safety reason. There's a safety issue. Hey, I told you not to cross the street. There's a reason that boundary is there. Look both ways before you cross. Why? Because there could be a car coming from either direction. Seems super basic, but most of the times the boundaries that we want to put around for our kids are because of safety issues. And then really, this is important too, all the boundaries that we establish are going to be different for different ages. What you might tell a toddler, hopefully, is not what you're going to be telling someone when they're a teen. They're going to go through that personal development. So I think that as we're talking about all these things, we recognize that all three of those come into play, and we're probably going to have different examples of all different age groups.
Yeah. And I think that as we keep on talking about our mini-series, we're going to go into our spouses and our partners and our friends and our family. I think our children and our spouses are the hardest, but they have boundaries, and you need to ask those questions. And you also need to teach kids when they're young to establish theirs. And I think we forget that as parents, that it's like kind of like a one-way street where we're telling them, like, this is what we need from you. These are our boundaries, especially right now with a lot of parents working from home. But it's also good to, at any age, sit down and talk to them and have them explain to you what their boundaries can be. And it can be something as small as, the playroom, like when they're in their own playroom and they want to play with their own stuff. And I remember my son used to always get mad at me for putting up his Legos. And it wasn't because he wasn't picking them up, but because he had, like, in different areas, because he was building something. So then we had to come up with, like, oh, okay, now I understand, because he'd come back and he'd be like, oh my God, you picked up all my stuff. Now I have to start all over again. And it was a whole thing. And I was just thinking about it, well, he left his Legos. So just things like that. And obviously now they're older. We don't have that talk around that. But there's a lot of things that we do, especially with me working from home, them coming home after rehearsals, them having, honestly, they don't want to be doing anything after 8:00. Great. So we kind of established what our routine and what our boundaries and what everything looks like here in the house. So yeah, I think we definitely need to just kind of get into that. And it's easier than we think, but it's just, like I said, a two-way street. And as they grow, the boundaries will change. The relationship changes, so the boundaries will change.
Yeah. And, I love what you said. We're really establishing lifelong habits. So the little toddler who thinks they can run into any room without knocking, or just demand what they want, if they don't understand that is not allowed, or I should say this, if you have decided as their parent that is not allowed, then they're going to grow up thinking, I can just walk into any room, I can do whatever I want, interrupt whoever I need to at whatever time I want to. And that is, I've met people like that. I've literally, I'm sure you have too, where you just think, do you not understand that there's a conversation going here right now? You just can't come up and interrupt. But that, more than likely, that person grew up in a house where it was just free, open reign to talk whenever you wanted to. And so these are lifelong boundaries that we're creating. Speaking of that, I think that no matter what age your child is, also understanding what their love language is, because at every single age of their development, if you know what their love language is, it's 10 times easier to encourage them, to discipline if you need to, or to just set those boundaries in their understanding way. And I know that we have a lot of moms that'll say, because a lot of people, whether they're at home working, they'll say, this is so hard at all age groups, because kids are kids. They just think I need. They don't think, wait, what are you doing? They think I need this first. So knowing their love languages the love languages are quality time, service, gifts, physical touch, and affirmations. Okay, so if your child, let's say they're 4 or 5, no, I would say more like a 7 and 8 would probably relate to this more. If they're an affirmations person and you say, listen, I'm going to be on a call. It's going to be about 30 minutes. Now, I do know this too. Use a timer. Use something that they can physically see. This is the time. Mom is going to be doing this. You affirm them beforehand. And then afterwards, when you're done, you take the time to affirm them afterwards. Like, oh, thank you so much for doing this. You are such a great listener. You are whatever it is they are to you for allowing you to do what they want to do. Now, does this happen all the time? No, it's, listen, what we're saying doesn't mean like
Repetition takes time and repetition, but you can't just start it and then not finish. Like, it's just like, oh, I did it one time and it didn't happen. Like, you really do have to. And it's a relationship that you're having with your children. So most parents want to just parent and they don't want to build that relationship. Like, oh, they don't understand that. They're too young. Opposite, my friends. If you don't do that, it's going to be harder as they get older, and they're not going to feel understood or respected. And respect is huge, especially with teenagers. I promise you. A lot of people ask. I'm like, I really try so hard to respect them. Their time is valuable too. Like, they're growing up. I totally understand. Like, a completely different season in our lives, but I could just be the typical what I think I should. I tell you what to do and that's what happens. But what a horrible relationship I would be having with my children. And so a lot of listening and also being there in the moment. Again, this is pre-pandemic, pre-everything. We are so attached to this. It's like right here. That I would say 90% of parents, if you sit down and have a conversation with your children and you work from home, you're an entrepreneur, you're a small business owner. I mean, my husband's in corporate. Like, he's also has a relationship with his son. They will nine out of 10 will tell you, well, you're always on your phone. And then when they're on their phone, we get mad at them. So like setting those boundaries, like Monday nights we go out to dinner. Well, anytime we have dinner, we don't have phones. But when we go out to dinner, I don't even bring my phone anymore. You know, talking to like the Apple Watches. It's like the Apple Watch has to come off. You know, like those types of things are important because quality time is important. So I explain that to them. Well, the reason behind it is because this is the only time we're together. We all can sit down and have a conversation. So they understand that versus me telling them, you just can't be on the phone.
Yeah.
And all the time they would tell me, you're always on your phone. And this is in my previous life as a retired event planner. But yeah, I was always on my phone and my whole thing was justifying while I'm working. Well, whenever is there a time that you're just going to be there, you know, like don't bring your phone with you. Don't have it at the table. If you're going out, like that's a boundary. That's like, and that's also respecting the relationship that you're in with another person. You know, I've been doing that even when we go out to dinner, when we go out for meetings, like, it's like, I can leave my phone in my purse. It's going to be fine. So really just sit down and like have a conversation with them. Because what does it look like for them? Sometimes we don't even know that. And it's the simplest things. Like my daughter also hates it when I go and rearrange her bathroom. She hates it. And I'm like, you know what? Why does it matter? I want to go clean it up and do a thing, but that's just her bathroom, her stuff. It's her bathroom. So I have to respect that. So, and she knows like when she leaves to go to her dad's house, there's a certain way that I want it. When she comes home, then she can have it any way she wants it. So little things like that.
I'm just laughing because the great thing about this world, there's so many different parenting styles. You know I parent because the only thing I knew was how my parents parented. You know, so like the minute you just said, hey, I'm the mom, because okay, that was what was ingrained in my head when I was younger.
Because you're my mom.
Yeah. So yeah. Or hey, when your dad comes home, that whole scenario, right? So like the fear of, oh my God, I'm not going to misbehave because when my dad gets home, big bad Val's walking in the door and holy God, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, I get that. But like, I know for me personally, I wish I could go back in time and not necessarily be the words that you just said, I'm the mom, because my kids hate that. Even if I said it right now, I bet you my son in the other room right now, I'd be like, I can, like, it's like, yeah. Because what you're doing, and now I've learned this now, is you're shutting them down, which, don't get me wrong, when it comes again to safety,
right.
When it comes to their personal growth, when it comes to something that is like, no, this is super important. I get it. It's like, no, you're not going to take another step because you're going to fall off the cliff. Like, no means no, knock it off. I'm the mom, I'm telling you, get that. But if we really think about it, there are those teaching special moments that I know I missed along the way because I was so busy, so consumed, so worried about other parental responsibilities to them that I didn't take the time to be more involved. Like, well, the whys. Why are you feeling that way? Let's talk about, like, if we're not in alignment, let's just take 2 seconds to talk about it before I just say no because I'm the mom. Let me say this. It is so much easier And I get it, especially if you're a single mom out there. It is so much easier when you are tired and drained just to say, because I'm the mom.
Mhm.
But in all reality, you're putting a huge band-aid on something that's just going to explode later. And it's probably better to say, hey, let's really sit down and work this out and not just put a band-aid on it. Okay. There's a couple things too that I personally see. Now the things I'm going to bring up, someone could also say, well, you didn't do this and you probably should have, but there's something that I also see with parenting a lot, and we call it the helicopter parent, the parent that's always hovering over a child. Okay, again, I get if it's for their safety and there's a reason, 100%. But a lot of times, if we really looked in the mirror and we said to ourselves, why am I being a helicopter parent? It's usually because we're the ones full of anxiety and we're the ones that are full of fear. So we're thinking already, if I don't do this, then that's going to happen. If I don't do this, that's going to happen. If I don't tell Johnny this, then he is going to fall down and hurt his leg. If I don't tell Susie this, then the mean girl is going to be mean to her at school. Some of these things they just have to experience. They have to understand that the world around them is not always going to have a boundary, and mom's not always going to be, or dad is not always going to be there to help whatever the situation is or to fix it.
Mhm.
And I feel like that is.
Well, since you brought that up, because I was gonna bring up also, you have to a lot, and again, it's different for every situation. So take this. I hope people don't take this like, oh my god, you don't understand. I do, because we have clients. We have clients that we talk to all the time with this. If your children are super involved with sports, something in school, something that they have practice every day for, as relationship coaches, we are going to tell you it's not healthy for you or your child. B, you're teaching them that they're like the center of your world, which is a whole nother podcast, but it's okay for you to not go, because when they leave your house and they go to college or they go travel the world or they decide to get a job, they are going to be so dependent on you. It's going to really ruin the relationships to come with friendships, with partnerships, with their businesses, with everything they do, because they are always so used to having that. And it's also same thing when they leave. Something happens to moms. It's a horrible thing. I mean, we see it happen all the time where they don't have a purpose in life because all they thought was that their children were their purpose. And so it's really, really important to understand now you don't have to do that. And you can have those conversations. And if you're a working mom or you have a business or a side business or you're not, those are the times that's like a you time that we talk about all the time. You need time for yourself. So it's okay to carpool, or it's okay to drop off and then go pick up. It's okay to spend those 2 or 3 hours doing something else that needs to be happening versus sitting there at practice. I promise you that we know, again, it's not because we're telling you don't do it. It's, we've seen what happens to both people in that relationship, the child and the parent, and it's not healthy, and it's really hard to undo those things. So we're here to tell you that it's okay to not be at every single practice, at every single game. You're teaching your children that you have your own life as well, that your life is not revolving around them. I'm done.
You're done. I'm done. Okay. Another unhealthy boundary that I was thinking is that sometimes parents, the boundaries that we do put up is because we are living vicariously through them. So we do or ask them to do things or not do things based on what our wants are, because again, we're trying to like, oh, but I didn't get to do this, so you're going to do this. I wasn't allowed to do this, so you can't live. It's like they're 100% detached from you and their own person. They 100% get to live and experience their life away from you, and will. I promise you, one day they will, 100%. But it's really sad to see when people live vicariously through their children. The other thing I think is more of an unhealthy thing is whether their other parent is involved in their life or not. Like a parent can be two parents in a home, or split up or divorced or whatever. It is super important to co-parent and be in agreement. And this one is huge because this one is a lot of boundaries. Like I have my own personal boundary, right? This is what my expectations, how I want to respect who I am. But then say if you and your spouse or your partner are not getting along, or you're the father of your child, you guys are not getting along. Now that's their personal boundaries, and it's super hard when people are not in agreement with each other, or they don't even want to be around each other to be in agreement for that child. So you have a boundary, they have a boundary, and now you're trying to fix those two boundaries together. Well, there's obviously angst for a reason.
Yeah.
But I would say this first and foremost, as hard as it is as a person, the number one thing you can do for yourself first is to just let things go. I know that sounds hard, but you're looking at two people who just decided to it's just going to be let go. But the beautiful thing is, does that do something for you? Yes. But it also does something so wonderful for the children. And when you put your children in a place of like, hey, your value to me is that it doesn't really matter what I think or how I feel about this other person or how much they irritate me, because this isn't about me.
Yep.
This is about you.
Yep.
And again, that establishes healthy boundaries for your child because they're going to feel safe in that kind of environment.
Yeah, I just wrote down. So I feel like every time we do an episode, I'm like, oh, another episode. So we will do a co-parenting episode.
Another bonus.
Yeah. No, this will just no. It can't be a mini series. It'll have to be a co-parenting, co-parenting relationship one. And we talked about last time doing a relationship with time episode because I think that's really important. But yeah, I hope that this kind of helps you guys. Again, we're doing a 6 parts. Next week, we'll be talking about your partner and your spouse. The week after that, we'll be talking about your family. And then we'll end with friends. But again, if you're just now listening to us or watching us on part 3, go back because we really do need to establish those boundaries with yourself. And if you are in a career, business, entrepreneur, all those things, episode 2, my favorite, because it's the one that we're really working with our clients with right now. And then today we hope we helped you with your children because it's really important. Really, establishing these boundaries do more than just having these rules, policies, regulations. It really is helping you with building a really strong foundation with your children and setting the tone for them for the rest of their life. So
yes,
really near and dear to our heart because that's really what you're doing. You're setting them up, coaching them, guiding them, mentoring them for them to build those strong relationships in their lives.
Yes, and give yourself grace.
Yeah.
Because you're in it to win it. You have your kids for a lifetime. You're going to be around them forever. This isn't an overnight thing, but just give yourself some grace and then try to develop an action plan.
Yep.
For when these things come up that you're already prepared, like, okay, I knew this is going to happen, or how am I going to handle this? And if you're completely stuck and you're like, I don't even know where to begin with an action plan. I wouldn't even know where to begin with this whole thing because it is the jungle gym chaos that I just described earlier. Then that's what we're here for. And we 100% welcome you to reach out to us so that we can connect with you.
Yep. Our links are in all the show notes, in our Instagrams, all the socials. So connect with us and we will be back next week with another episode. Thanks. Bye.